My name is Hanna Kok from The Life You Want. I live in South Africa, and I want to share with you what I've learned about how we can use the mirror and forgiveness to resolve conflict. So let me start with sharing my PowerPoint presentation. Um, let's first share screen. Share. Go. Okay, so let's start with a disclaimer. It's a standard GHK disclaimer that explains how to use this information. So my presentation is about resolving conflict with the mirror and forgiveness. This works incredibly well, and for many cases, because not everything works for everybody, but I find in my practice as a coach, I've been working with this for over 25 years. I don't have as much experiences with identifying the conflicts in the GHK way, but as I'm looking at the conflicts that are there by a quick glance, it definitely will assist in resolving territorial conflicts, powerless or helpless conflicts, chunk conflicts, and probably many more. So let's have a look. Forgiveness. Forgiveness can be a loaded word, often linked to religion. And what I want to talk about today is that does not have to be, I want to talk to be in a wider sense. So forgiveness is not that we have to let the people back into our lives. That's why many people don't want to forgive, because they're afraid now this person that they want to keep out has to come back in. No, that is not true. It also doesn't mean that we are condoning the behavior of this person, that condoner, that behavior that we disapprove of. It's also not about right and wrong. It doesn't imply that somebody did something wrong and now we forgive them. They did, what they thought was best, or what they could do with what they had at the time. But it still hurt us and created conflict for us, and that's why we forgive them. But it doesn't imply they did something wrong per se. And the last one, also, it's not about that I forgive another person because I come from this high moral ground and I forgive this morsel down there that is so low. It's not about that. So if it's not this, what is forgiveness? When I talk about forgiveness, it is about something we do for ourselves. It is about taking our power back, and it's about accepting what happened, and we let go of it mentally. Well, we let go of it generally, but now we don't have this thing taking up mental space and robbing us from our energy that we could use for healing. And so we now have more space. It creates peace when we forgive. And that's how we take our power back. The mirror effect. So the mirror that I work with is not the real mirror, the piece of glass that you look into, the reflective piece of glass, but it is about how our external world is a reflection of what is going on inside. And we often feel hopeless and helpless because the outside world is not always what we like. And then we feel we cannot have an influence on it. But if it's a reflection, if I don't like what I see in the mirror and I change myself, then my reflection also changes. And that is how we get tremendous amount of power. Let me explain the whole process. And to get the ultimate results, it is important to do the whole step, all the steps. But first, you need to know when to use this mirror. And this is when you feel disturbed. When there is an emotional disturbance, then you know, time to look into that mirror. As I said, there are 8 steps, and I'm going to analyze them all. So we've got a name, it's about feeling, it's about mirroring, forgiving, wanting, applying, shift, and thanks. Let's go into that a little deeper to find out what that all means. So step 1 is about naming the irritating behavior. Now be careful, before you know it, you can talk about this for hours, for days, for years. You can be stuck in it. So I need you to bring it down to a few words, one sentence at the most, and maybe spend maximum 5 minutes on it, because that way you prevent yourself from getting stuck into talking about the other person. And for example, when we look at the irritating behavior, it could be that they are disrespectful of us, they are not listening to us, they are judgmental, but there are other options as well. But in this example, I'm just going to look at these 3 options because those are often the 3 that are prominent. Now, when we've had to deal with an irritating person, we feel stirred. And when we are in this state, especially if we're angry and upset, there's no ways we can apply the other steps because we don't have our wisdom available. When we are stirred, we go into survival mode, action, reaction, fight or flight. So it's very important that we calm ourselves down. We can take a few deep breaths, but also what I love to do is really sit with the emotion. So I say I'm angry, then I feel which part of the body is tense, or put my hand on my heart and I say, you know what? It's okay that I'm angry. I give myself permission to feel angry. I forgive myself for feeling angry. Whatever it is that you want to say, or just sit with the feeling until you feel peace. There might be other emotions that come to the surface. Deal with those emotions, those layers of emotions, and calm yourself down first. Okay, so once we calm, we're going to look into that mirror. And this is not always easy for people because it does require eating a little bit of humble pie. But as I mentioned, it gives you your power back. It will give you the opportunity to change the situation and influence those people that you don't like or their behavior that you didn't like. So the hard question to ask ourselves now is, where do we do a similar or the same thing to ourselves? For example, if that other person is disrespectful of us, the chances are very big that you're very respectful of other people and you're very considerate. But how considerate and respectful are you of you? When we put our needs aside to keep the peace, that's not respectful. When we are hard on ourselves and we use harsh language to motivate ourselves to do better, that's disrespectful. When we don't listen to that little voice inside, we're not listening, we are disrespectful of ourselves as well. And when we compare ourselves to others and come off worse, we are judgmental of ourselves. Now, that can be a hard pill to swallow because now we realized, oops, I'm doing the same thing as that irritating behavior in the other person. Then it's time to forgive ourselves. And we can sit with ourselves and say, you know what? Even though it's regrettable that I do this thing that I dislike in the other person, and you can name your situation, I forgive myself from the bottom of my heart. It's okay. I didn't know better. I couldn't do better. You can use forgiveness words that suit you. Again, the peace should have come back because, as I said, it can be a bit difficult to accept that we did what we didn't like in the other. So we forgive ourselves also for being disrespectful, not listening, and being judgmental of ourselves. Or just name the one thing that is applicable for you. Then we ask ourselves, how do we want to be treated by them? And it's these next few steps that are essential, that are going to make the difference. If we stop with step 4, all it does is that it makes us feel guilty. Oh, I'm just as bad as that person. No, we don't want to get into that. We want to make the change. Remember, we want to change ourselves so that the mirror can change. So we start by asking, how do I want to be treated by them? And you might say something like, I would like to be treated with respect. I want them to listen to me. I want them to accept me as I am. And then we apply our own advice. How can we be respectful of ourselves? How can we talk nicely to ourselves when we make a mistake? Or as somebody said so nicely, when we're on our learning journey, how can we be respectful and kind and supportive instead of knocking ourselves down? How can we listen to our intuition or voice our needs? How can we accept ourselves as we are? And a lot of self-esteem conflicts come from not accepting ourselves as we are. So that is another conflict that we can start resolving here. Because we are much better at giving advice to others. We know exactly how we want to be treated by others. And then we can do that to ourselves. And that's how we can start making the change within ourselves. Then ask yourself, how will your life change? How will your life change when you are kind to yourself? How will it help you to reach your goals? When you listen to that intuition, when you stop judging yourself so harshly, how will that change your life? You probably will go and do that thing that you were too scared of doing. You will take action, whatever it is. Realize by changing yourself and forgiving yourself for having done the same, you are going to change your life. And then you can realize, you know what, that irritating person has just given me gold. They showed me it is time to be so hard on myself. It is time to stop beating myself up or to stop comparing myself to others, because I'm going to improve my life when I do that. So you could thank the other person, or if you're still upset, then you can forgive them for being the perfect mirror. Why would you do this? Why would you go through those 8 steps? Well, I have been, as I said, been using this for over 25 years, and I guarantee you one of the 4 following outcomes, at least one of them. Those irritating people will disappear gracefully out of your life. Of course, if this is family, you maybe don't want that, so then you don't give that option. But the other options are still very good. You find they change, or they stop irritating you. They are no more your trigger, or you'll find a new way of dealing with them. Because now you realize, hang on, they are judgmental, for example. I'm judgmental. And then when you talk to them, say, I know how easy it is to be judgmental. And this is how I've stopped doing that, or being disrespectful. You treat them on the same level instead of talking down at them, saying, how dare you be so disrespectful of me? No, you understand it's so easy to be disrespectful. But I found most of the time, number 1, 2, or 3 will appear, and I don't even have to find a new solution. So let me share one of the examples. Now, this is not necessarily how we resolved the conflict and that the symptoms could disappear, because At that stage, I wasn't dealing with GHK yet, but it is a really good example of how powerful this work is. So here is the example. Oh, there was another slide here. Why do we do this process? As I said, when the conflict is resolved, the body can go into healing phase. So it's very important to end the conflict. So here is one of my clients. Well, this is not what she really looked like, but Ntabi Singh used to have a boss that would stand at the door and scream at her and was very demanding. Then I had a coaching session with her, and we discovered that she was also very demanding of herself. Then she said, okay, my boss, how do I want to be treated by her? I want to be treated with respect. I want her to acknowledge what I've done, maybe give me some compliments, and give me time to do what needs to be done. And so then she started doing that to herself. She gave herself some time off. She would compliment herself. She was more patient with herself, not so hard on herself. I saw her 2 weeks later. She says, you won't believe what happened. I said, of course I believe what happened. Just tell me. She says, well, the whole situation has changed. My boss will come now. Not instead of screaming at me from the doorway, she stands next to my desk and waits for me to finish and talks politely to me. Nobody spoke to the boss. Her energy changed, she changed, the reflection changed. That's how powerful this work is. So, some final thoughts. When we change, the trigger loses its power, and then the conflict is resolved. So if I stop being hard on myself, then when other people are hard on me or try to be hard on me, it doesn't touch me the same way, or they even don't do it anymore. And that is how we've resolved the conflict. And I believe we can prevent many symptoms. We don't even have to go into that situation where we get ill, because as soon as we are stirred, and shaken for that matter, then we go and apply that 8-step process of looking into the mirror, forgiving ourselves and the other person, and then the conflict is resolved quickly. Then the healing phase is also short. Now, for those who want to know more about this method of using the mirror and forgiveness to resolve conflict, there are two things that I have for you. I give a forgiveness workshop. It is a 2-hour workshop, super affordable. You can even sign up for it now. You get the recording of the previous one, and then whenever I teach it again, you can join live without paying again and again. If you go to this bit.ly link, HK Forgiveness, that's for my name, Hanna Kok, then you get immediate access. You can purchase it there. And the other thing that I have for you is my book, Bitter or Better, I Decide. And you can go to that website, bitterorbetteridecide.com. You can even get a few chapters if you want, or you can order the book on hard copy, on Kindle, or you can also get it on Audible. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to see you soon somewhere.